Welcome to another episode of Engineering Our Future. My name is Nicolai Oliden, and I'm joined today with Luis again on another exciting episode. It's a little early for me. It's about 6:40 a.m. I had to wake up this early to be able to record before the workday starts, but I'm really excited about this topic of motivation. And I have this love-hate relationship with motivational quotes. I definitely can read one and feel inspired. Maybe it's inspired to start. Maybe it's motivated to keep going. But then some other ones kind of leave me scratching my head a little bit, like this Chinese proverb I heard the other day. And it says, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with just a single step. And I hear that and I think, oh man, that's so great. Sounds so nice. But then I kind of think about it and chew on it a little bit. And I'm like, man, it's missing so much because, yes, I do agree that you need to take that first single step. But this journey of 1,000 miles is going to require 1.8 million more steps. So, how the heck are you going to do that? And now in this case, this 1,000 mile journey might be a goal that you're working on, or it might be a project you're working on, or maybe it's your 5 year plan, whatever it might be for you, or whatever that 1,000 mile journey is currently for you. Yes, we do need to take that single step, but how do we keep taking steps? And we just need a crap ton of motivation. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We have a couple questions that we're going to answer, how to keep moving forward, what to do if you get stuck, how can you find motivation? But Luis, what are your thoughts kind of just in general on this? Maybe how do you define motivation yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of similar with you. It's like kind of like a love hate relationship with it, just because there's some days that you quote unquote find motivation really easy and like start doing work and everything feels great, but then the next day you're gonna try to do the same. You have your morning routine and everything went great. You didn't do anything different, but when you sit to work, like there is no motivation. There is nothing there. There is a constant struggle to really get started. So to me, like motivation is not really something you find, it's something you have to build and something you need to work towards. So like you were saying with that quote, it may be a little not the greatest quote, maybe with 1,000 miles, but if you start taking action, it could be picking up a few things off your desk, just cleaning your space a little bit, just really simple tasks that are not going to take too much time, and then you move on to actually doing the work you need to be doing. I think that's how you really find that motivation. You need to work for it. You need to build your momentum towards it, rather than just finding it and hoping it'll come every time.
Yeah. And I know that, motivation, obviously, we probably think more in line with kind of our personal lives and maybe our personal goals. But, for engineers, there can be times it's just on a project that you just need motivation to push through. I was talking to a coworker of mine yesterday, and this project that she now had to re-pick up has been shelved for 3 years. And it's been going on for like 5 years. And so they're just, where do you start? How do you take that first step? But then how are we just gonna finish this? Like it's so hard to go back and try to pick this one up after 3 years of just waiting. I have stories like that sometimes on projects, or maybe you're on a project that it's going to be an 8 month burn, and it's going to be tough for an 8 month time frame. Maybe it's a design build, or maybe it's just a really large project that the client wants to wrap up very quickly. And so how do you find that motivation to keep just finishing that project? These are all challenges that we will face in our careers. um, I guess there are different types of motivation. You have external and then internal motivation. I know I didn't ask you about this before, but do you kind of have your own, like, which one motivates you more?
So I've been learning a lot about like how my like brain operates and like how I should do things maybe a little differently than other people may do it. and I find that the internal motivation often is not gonna be there. Like it's gonna be hard for me to have like internal motivation, like wake up and like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a great day. Like I don't have any issues going work out and starting work and really doing anything. So relying on those external motivations is what I've been doing lately, and this could just be having a journal next to me and then just kind of start writing down my thoughts in the morning just to kind of get clear. It could be like I was saying, just looking at my desk, like there's a lot of stuff here. What can I just pick one or two things, bring a cup from yesterday to the kitchen and clean a little bit, maybe play some music while I'm doing that and kind of start getting like slowly get into the rhythm rather than just jumping straight into work and hoping I can find motivation that way. So more into that external aspect. And I mean, there is other things that could be done as well, depending on like your personality, like how you work, your environment, everything. But those are some of the things that I tend to do before I actually get to work. Just kind of priming myself to work. Like if it's like a racing car, you don't start the race from zero and then go to the race right away. Like you have a few warm-up laps and like take your time to get the car ready and all of that. So that's kind of how I see it.
Sure. Uh, I wasn't planning to bring this up, but I was just remembering when you were talking. Um, I tend to be motivated with like a positive reward or something like that. I had a friend. He is very motivated by negative rewards. So there's actually an app, and I wish I could remember what it was, but he has this app where basically he says what the goal is. He has to get an accountability partner that will then verify his progress on the goal. But basically, he'll put up a large sum of money, like $4,000, $5,000, like a lot of money. And basically, if he fails the goal, that money then gets donated to a charity, but it's typically a charity that he definitely does not want to be supporting. Maybe it's a I don't want to become political or anything, but like maybe it's the other political party. Like
Yeah.
obviously he does not want to be supporting them, so that's what motivates him to push forward. Anyways, that was totally not planned to be shared, but I just everybody gets motivated a little differently. So then but how do we maybe find motivation? Maybe we're just kind of getting started, or maybe we're waiting to start, but like what are some different strategies for finding this motivation? And I guess when I let you think about it for a second, I'll just kind of share with myself. I have never really found this motivation just by sitting and waiting for it to happen. um Typically for me, it's finding motivation is it does require some sort of action first. And so that proverb was saying this whole journey starts with a single step. And, we're talking about how do we keep stepping, but most of the time I have found that once you take that single step, the rest will help a lot. The rest will be a lot easier to do. And then James Clear, this famous author, wrote this article where he actually compared motivation to Newton's first law about objects in motion tend to stay in motion. And I just thought that was so great because it's such a good visual for me when it comes to motivation. It's like, all right, I don't have to get motivated right now to complete this entire thing. I just have to have the courage. I just have to have the proaction to take that first step and then just make sure I keep that object in motion. But what are some of the other strategies that you have found for just finding the motivation?
Yeah, so some of the things I've been struggling the most with is just kind of getting clear of what I need to be working on at the start of the day. I think that's one of the things that really like kill my motivation in the morning. Like if I just start working and I don't have anything in mind, like what am I supposed to be doing? What did I stop yesterday? So I've started to like leave notes to myself the evening before. So I have like a notepad that I say like these are some of the things I did yesterday. These are some of the things that need to happen maybe right away in the morning. These are some of the things that need to happen maybe later in the day, and that way I'm completely clear on what needs to happen. There is no guessing. There is no sitting around to wait and wait what's next. I already know what needs to happen, have a task list ready, and that just happens 10 minutes before the day ends, the evening before. So again, having those little cues, having those little like things that you do doesn't need to be anything big. Doesn't need to be life changing every day. Taking 5 minutes to write what's gonna come next, what's gonna come tomorrow. Taking 5 minutes in the morning to look at that list and say, here's when I'm gonna do those things. Makes the motivation not having to be found is just there. It's just taking action on what you already said you were gonna be doing. So those are
Yeah.
a little thing that I started doing recently that has helped a ton, in my opinion.
I love that because you are removing any sort of obstacles to take that first step. By just kind of creating this plan, creating this note to yourself. Like you said, you're not just wondering; it's right there. All you literally have to do is take that step.
Mhm.
It's because you've removed those obstacles. I love that. You
And
know,
and just to compare a little bit with content creation, for example, when I'm trying to write an article or like trying to plan a podcast, if I sit there looking at a blank page, it's gonna be daunting, overwhelming. It's going to be tough to get started. Like, where do you even start then? So by taking small steps throughout the week, throughout the month, curating ideas and expanding on those ideas as they come, usually when I sit to write something, I already have a list of bullet points that I know I want to be talking about, or at least I have an idea of what needs to happen. So again, just kind of priming yourself to actually take action on what needs to happen rather than just sitting and hoping that when you sit there, you have the motivation, you have the insight, the clear mind to develop your plan for the day and act on it.
yeah. Um, One other thing, and I think for people that are struggling with motivation, trying to break it down, into either bite-sized pieces or just small things that you can kind of wrap your mind around. Sometimes it's too scary or overwhelming when you look at the huge picture. But if we talk about goals and we talk about how goals need to be measurable. But if you can make the a good goal that's measurable, and then you can track any progress at all. If you can, like, let's say the goal is to walk 3 miles a day, but then you are not tracking those things. You need to be tracking them, and even if you go half a mile in a day, at least you made some progress. That's going to help with the rest of the motivation. You have to be able to measure it, and then you have to be able to track it, because even if you're not meeting that goal that you set for yourself, you could at least see that you've made movements forward. And that's really, really important when we're talking about motivation, because we just need to keep taking that next step. One other thing, and this kind of can relate to the whole what to do if you get stuck, so maybe it's a good segue for that. But I heard a long time ago, this guy named Kurt Gentry here in Phoenix. He was sharing that people don't go there until here is no longer acceptable. And again, when I really let that kind of sink in, that is so true. I mean, sometimes when I'm feeling stuck, or sometimes I'm feeling like, man, it's just hard to take this first step, I need to kind of evaluate this here versus there situation. Yes, on paper and when I was writing my goals down for the year, this one sounded good, but was my current situation, did I clearly define that current situation? Do I need to remind myself of what that current situation is, so that I can see that staying where I am doing nothing is worse than doing something. So you could use that at the beginning, you could use that if you get stuck, whatever it is. But what other tips do you have if you feel like you're kind of just getting stuck? Maybe you took a few steps and now you're just kind of feeling, how do I keep going? What do you what are some of your things you do?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think we may have talked about this last episode on just how busy you are, and if you look at your calendar, 6 months from now, it may look like you're not busy, but once you get there, you're gonna be just as busy as you are right now. I think the same goes with motivation. If you think you're gonna have more motivation tomorrow, you're probably going to be in the same situation you are today. It's not going to change. So, taking those actions in terms of, again, slowly getting into the day, looking for the motivation, working towards it, rather than just hoping you have motivation tomorrow or the next day or in a week or in a month, is going to be more reliable and you're going to be more consistent. I think going back to James Clear of Atomic Habits that talk about having that consistency, keeping track of your habits, and creating the systems to back those habits up, and making sure you don't need to work towards or just expect to have motivation every day, but you're working towards having a system and environment that helps you get into that motivation rhythm. So I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's a good analogy as well to don't think you're gonna have motivation tomorrow or you're gonna find it easy tomorrow or in a week. You're probably gonna be in the same boat you are right now.
Yeah. Actually, one of the tips that I was planning to share for this getting stuck thing is schedule. I know it sounds weird, schedule your motivation, but like get it on your calendar. You know, successful people schedule their most important things. They get it on their calendar. You know, I use a paper planner and I use Outlook, and just put it on there. You know, you're gonna see it coming up. Like, let's say Thursday, you're trying to make progress on something. You know, I know that you write in the mornings on certain mornings, and but you have that scheduled, and maybe you don't necessarily have motivation the day before, but then you wake up and you see it's on your calendar. You're like, well, this is what I told myself I was going to be doing today, so I might as well start. You know, sometimes that can be help. I think it's the unsuccessful people that just are waiting for this motivation and inspiration to to come before they start these things, and that's just never going to happen. um, Yesterday. So I have a deadline today, and we have an offer on a house. We're doing a home inspection this afternoon. I was looking at my calendar last night, and I just thought, you know, instead of just waiting for tomorrow, why don't I just knock this out? I know it's going to be a few hours. I had a call at 10 p.m. I'm part of a global team. That could actually be a great episode, by the way. I think I saw a post or something you talked about recently about how the future of our work is going to be global. I'm actually living that right now. So I have a 10 p.m. call every few days with the global. Anyways, getting off track. But I had this call at 10 p.m. And then I thought, you know what? Let me just start it. And I made a commitment with myself to just do one. I have 27 things I needed to review and package up. And they've already been reviewed. I was just doing that final, just, you know, checkbox sort of thing. And I just committed myself to one, you know, just do one. Then I did a second one, and then I did a third one. And then I see it's like midnight, and I'm like, you know what? I might as well just keep going. Maybe I'll go till 1 a.m. Uh, Anyways, 27 tasks later, I was at about 2:30 this morning. I finished, and so now, yes, I'm a little exhausted after only 3 hours of sleep, but I have another busy day. I probably would have been super stressed out if I didn't take that first step and then have the motivation to keep on going. But I didn't commit to doing all 27. That would have been too stressful. I just committed to doing one, and the rest of the 27 just came. So it was really good. It's, you know, I knew we were talking about motivation today, but it's just kind of like that was how I got motivated and then stayed motivated to just continue on because I was remembering what I had to do today and why staying up late was probably going to be important for me. And I think I bring that up because one of the other tips I wanted to say is remember your why. Maybe you need to revisit why you put this goal in front of you in the first place, or maybe you need to revisit why this project is important to you and your company or maybe the client, and just maybe you need to get that kind of calling that's bigger than yourself sort of thing to remind you of the impact and the importance of why you are doing this particular thing. So that was going to be my last tip for kind of what to do if you get stuck. Any final tips from you on motivation?
I was just gonna mention, I think that's a great example as well of what we've been talking about today. I think if you had these podcast recording scheduled maybe by yourself, you'll have said, eh, I don't have any accountability. I don't have to jump in a call with someone else. Maybe I'll just skip it this morning and do it later today or in a week. But because you had someone that was going to show up, and if you didn't show up, you're going to look bad. I think that's another way to find, quote unquote, find motivation to do something. It's
Yeah.
just having that accountability partner and making sure both of you are on the same page and like you're keeping each other motivated. So I think that was kind of a great way to kind of wrap up that section there.
Oh, I 100% love that last one. Yes, getting that accountability partner. There is nothing more motivating than having somebody who's kind of counting on you. And I know if I would have canceled, you would have been just fine, and you would have said that's okay. But like, I don't want to do that. And so again, I was motivated to wake up early and do this episode. Plus, I just love doing these episodes anyways. So yeah. So I guess that does wrap up this episode talking about motivation. I encourage all of you to, write down maybe one of your key takeaways from this conversation. Maybe one of the first actionable steps that you are planning to take. Maybe you do feel stuck right now. Um, Actually, you know what? Can I back up real quick? And I just want to make sure we say this too. If you're feeling stuck, it might be actually something that's way bigger than just some of the things that we've talked about. There are times, and I know that, Luis, you and I have talked. I've shared my personal story before. There have been times in my career that it was way bigger than any step or tip that we could have talked about. And it truly was like a depression. It truly was, a mental thing. And if you're feeling stuck and you just can't find a way out of it, seek help. Find a professional. I think that's definitely something to make sure you remember. Like, take care of yourself first, but hopefully,
Yeah,
you can use one of these steps to take action.
I was just gonna add that that's absolutely true, and I think I have done a couple episodes in the past, but I think it will be worth to do a few more, maybe with Elise as well. I recorded one or two with her. She has some great resources as well for that. But yeah, seeking motivation, there is no shame on that. If I go to therapy, I take medicine for anxiety. Like it's nothing out of this world. Like if you need the help, you need the help, and sometimes those little things can make a huge difference. And I think the taboo is it is what it is, and we just need to keep talking about it. And maybe in the future we will do an episode talk about it. I can do an episode by myself with Elisa or something, and that's something that, yeah, it's sort of true. You need help. If you need help, you need help, but sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I was mentioning, maybe write down your key takeaway. I would even ask you all, just because, Luis and I love doing these episodes, but sometimes it is a little odd. We're just speaking into our microphones and you don't really get any reactions. And so I would love it if you shared maybe that key takeaway that you had with us. Luis will share the contact information here in a second, but yeah, think about that. We would love to encourage you along your way. We would love to be your cheerleaders, as you're doing your 1,000-mile journey, whatever it might be. So yeah, keep that in mind, Luis. If you don't mind sharing our contact info, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, I think the best way would be on LinkedIn. Just take a screenshot of your podcast player. This will be on YouTube as well if you're watching here. Share it on LinkedIn. Tag both of us. I think Nicolai, Oliden, and Luis Duque. You can find us pretty easily. Or you can reach out to us via email at luis@luisfelipeduque.com or nicolai@engineeringu.org. We'll link all of that stuff in the show notes. Easy to find. And as always, I think this is a great pleasure to record. It's been a while, so we're kind of getting the rhythm, and it's a lot of fun. If you really enjoyed this episode of the Engineering Future podcast, you're going to love the content we have over our website at luisfelipeduque.com. You can find the link in the description of this episode, as well as the show notes at luisfelipeduque.com/podcast. Every episode comes packed with a lot of links, a lot of information. So you can find all the show notes and all the information related to this episode over at luisfelipeduque.com/podcast. Thank you so much for coming back to this episode. Thank you, Jack Winters, for the music. And as always, let's continue engineering our future.